Okay, good morning, everyone. So, I would like to welcome you, everyone, on our English Maritime course. So, again, this is your instructor, Elaine, for our week 50, day 1. So, it's all about the importance of the English communication in the maritime industry. So, first, we have here the vital role of the English communication in the maritime industry. So, what is this? What we call the maritime English or the English maritime. So, the maritime English, it is a specialized standardized form of English used by seafarers and the shipping industry worldwide to ensure a clear, unambiguous communication for operational safety, efficiency, and then emergency at the sea. So it also incorporating a foundational English with a specific terms and phrases, notably by the International Maritime Organization, or what we call the IMO, Standard Maritime Communication Phrases, and the, or what we call the SMCP. So here I have here some key aspects to remember. So the purpose of this is to prevent the miscommunications which can lead to a accidents by providing a common language for diverse international crews. And another one is the components. So, it blends the basic English with a fixed, standardized phrases for the ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore, and also for the internal vessel communications. So, another one is the standardization. So, this is developed by the IMO. So, it also includes the SMCP by making it mandatory for the seafarers under international convention like the STCW. And then it also includes the foundational English, technical jargons, and specific phrases for routine tasks and emergencies, or like some urgent situations, as well as the navigations. It also includes the grew from the English becoming the global lingual franca of the seas. So, this is the origin of the English maritime with a formalization efforts like the CISPIC in the 1980s to create the universal understanding. So, it's like a universal code for the sea. So, build on English so that the everyone from a different countries can understand when lives and cargo are at the stakes. So this is not just a conversational English. So it is a technical tool used to eliminate the ambiguity at the seas. So I have here what we called, as I mentioned earlier, the Standard Marine Communication Phrases, or the SMCP. So the SMCP, this is the set of key phrases in English developed by the International Maritime Organization, or what we call the IMO, to standardize the language for the safety related communications at the sea. So formally this is adopted in 2001. So they are designed to bridge language barriers among some multinational crews and between ships and shore-based authorities. So to eliminate those ambiguity, the SMCP utilize some 8 specific what they called is a message markers at the beginning of the radio transmission to define its purpose. So first is during the instruction. So mandatory orders given by the legal authority. And then advice. So this is the recommendation that the recipient should consider carefully. And then we have here next is the warning. So this is the information um, about the immediate danger. So again, the instruction, the advice, the warning, and then the next one is what we call the information. So this is the restricted to observe facts or navigational status. And then the fifth one is the question. So this one indicates an interrogative message, expecting an answer. And of course, if we have a question, we also have some answer. So this is the direct reply to a previous question. And then we also have here what we call request. So this is asking for a specific action or service such as the tugs or a pilot. And then lastly is what we call the intention. So this is the to inform others of an immediate navigational action the sender will take. So again, so we have here the 8 specific message markers. So first we have the instructions, advice, warning, information, question, answer, request, and lastly the intentions. So next is the core rules and structures. So we have here 4. So first is the simplified English. So the SMCP, they uses a black language. So this one, it often omits function word like the, a, is, or are to remain concise. Okay? So next is no conditionals. So words like may or might, could, or should are avoided to prevent the confusion between the possibilities and orders. So next one is the affirmative or negative. So this one, it is the responses to a yes or no questions. So it must be fully worded. Like, for example, yes, I required a pilot, rather than just yes or no. And the next is what we call the spelling and numbers. So uses the NATO phonetic alphabet, like for example, the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and a specific pronunciation of numbers, like 1, 3, and niner. So here, the SMCP is organized in two primary parts based on their application under the STCW convention. So we have here the part A. So this is the essential phrases for external communication like ship to ship or ship to shore. So, and on board safety communication while the pilot is on the bridge. Next, the part B. The second part is the operative safety phrases for the international use. So this one, it including the cargo handling, passenger care, and the daily watch-keeping duties. So I have here now the examples of a common phrases. So during the distress, we have here Mayday, I'm sinking. Please proceed to my assistance. Next one is what we call the correction. If a mistake is made, the speaker says mistake and then correction, followed by the right information. And then we have here the engine orders. So stand by the engine, stop engine, and finish with engine. During the ice hazards. So I am fast on ice, I required assistance. So those are the common phrases in here in the standard maritime communication. So we move forward. So here is all about the global nature of shipping. So this is the what we call the backbone of the world economy. So connecting nations by transporting over 80% of goods by volume via a vast maritime network. Essential for accessing raw materials, creating an affordable products, and enabling the international trade through containerizations. So by this, it also yet facing some challenges in decarbonization. So we will discuss it later. And building some resilient supply chains. So that this complex system links manufacturers to consumers globally. So involving the ships, ports, logistics, and digital innovations are very crucial for sustainable development and prosperity worldwide. So by this, I have some key aspects of the global shipping. So we have here what we call the economic engine. So it enables the countries to import a necessities and export the finished goods, fostering economic growth and creating some jobs. Again, the next one. So first we have the economic engine and then we have the maritime backbone. So this is the primary method for moving goods, with container ships, revolutionizing efficiency, moving everything from the smartphones to a fuel. And the next one is the interconnected network. So this is relies on a global web of ports. So like the Shanghai, Rotterdam, and Singapore. So the logistic providers to move cargo across oceans. And then developing some nations' role. So, developing the countries are key players in the ship registrations, crewing, recycling, and the shipbuilding as highlighted by the IMO. So, next is what are those challenges and the future trends? So, first we have here what we call the decarbonization. So, this is the shipping accounts for 3% of the global emissions. So, driving a push for an alternative fuels like methanol and hydrogen, and the green corridors to test the new technologies. Notes that the UN Trade develops development and Nordea. And then the next one is the supply chain resilience. So climate change impacts and disruptions. So for example, like the COVID-19 pandemic. So this one, it emphasizes the need for the robust port infrastructure and digital solutions, says the World Bank Group. And then, of course, lastly, the competitions. So despite its size, the industry remained highly competitive with varying market shares among the global carriers by the World Shipping Council. So, I mentioned about decarbonization. So, what are this or what is the meaning of the carbonization? So, this is the drastically or decarbonization in the global shipping means drastically cutting the greenhouse gas. So, primary targeting the net zero by around 2050. So, this is mandated by the International Maritime Organization. So, to combat the climate change, a huge challenge due to the shipping is vital role transporting and significant cargo footprint around 3% of the globals. So the key goals and target of the IMO. So I mentioned the net zero. So this is the goal to achieve the net zero greenhouse gas emission by around 2050. And then by 2030, reduces the emission by at least 20% with a 5 to 10% of the energy from zero to near zero fuels. So by 2040, it aimed for a 70% reduction. So the strategies for this decarbonization. So first is the alternative fuels. So transitioning from heavy fuels, oil, to a sustainable option like the ammonia, methanol, hydrogen, or biofuels. And then next is what we call the energy efficiency measures. So this is two. So it divided by the two. It is the operational and the technical. So under the operational, this is the slow streaming or reducing the speed route optimization. And then during the technical, this is the hull air lubrications, wind assisted propulsions, better engine design. And then we have here what we call the technological innovation. So this is the digital tools for efficiency, advanced ship design. And then lastly, the policy and regulations. So the IMO's carbon pricing mechanism. So to incentivize the greener choices. So we have here also some challenge for the decarbonization. So first is the technological readiness. So scaling up the production and infrastructure for new fuels. And second one is the cost. So high upfront investment for new ships and retrofitting existing ones. Next is the what we call the infrastructure gaps. So lack of bunkering facilities for a new fuels globally. And then next one, lastly, is the industrial inertia. So this one meaning difficulty in global coordination and adaptation across the diverse fleets. So why all of this are matter? Because it has an impact about the environmental imperative. So the shipping's emissions are significant and growing if not checked regularly. And then the economic lifeline. So the sector moves over 80% of the world trade. So decarbonizing it is crucial for the global supply chain. So I have here now what we call the English as a lingua franca. So what is this English as a lingua franca? So this is the use of English as a common functional language for communication between people who have a different native tongues. So, serving as a global bridge in business, education, media, and travel, distinct from a native speaker English by focusing on a mutual understanding rather than the perfect grammar. So the ELF emphasize clear communication strategies over a strict native speaker norms. So with features like omitting articles or simplifying some structures, challenging traditional teaching method to prepare speakers for the international interactions. So, the aspects of this ELF or English as a lingua franca is the function driven. So, defined by its use in the intercultural communication, not by native speaker standard. And then global reach. So, dominant in academia, business, science, and online platforms. And then next is the user base. So over 80% of English users are non-native speakers. So this one is significantly outnumbering the native speakers. And then we also have the linguistic features. So may includes the dropping the finals sounds, omitting the articles, and using the simpler for clarity through this vary. And lastly is the educational shifts. So this is teaching and shifting from native speaker models to preparing students for communications with other than non-native speakers. So, it all matters because of the democratizing English. So, empowers all users with the equal communication rights, removing the difference to the native speakers. Another reason is to connect the worlds. So by this, it enables the complex international interactions, trade, and cultural exchange. And then lastly, it's about involving the field, a significant area of research in linguistics exploring its forms, social contents, and lastly, the implications for the teaching. So the next one that we have here, it's about the IMO mandate. So what is this again what we call this the IMO or or the International Maritime Organization. So this one, the IMO is to ensure the safe, secure, and environmentally sound, efficient, and sustainable shipping globally. So, this is acting as the UN's specialized agency for the maritime affairs by creating and enforcing international rules and standards for everything from ship constructions and pollutions preventions to a seafarer's training and reducing the shipping emissions. So, it is a core functions involve adapting the high standards for the maritime safety. So, preventing submarine pollutions, facilitating legal frameworks, and promoting sustainable maritime development through the global operations. So I have here the key areas of the IMO mandate. So here, the maritime safety and security. So this is developing the standards for ship design, equipments, operation like the SOLAS, and maritime security to prevent some accidents and protect lives at the sea. And then environmental protections. So regulating the pollutions from ships, including oil, chemicals, sewage, and garbage, and also the greenhouse gas emissions through the conventions like the MARPOL. So another one is the sustainable shipping. So promoting the sustainable maritime development, and the 2030 Agenda for a Sustainable Development. Next one is what we call the facilitation and the legal frameworks. So this is creating a forum for the governments to cooperate and adopting treaties for liability, compensations, and efficient maritime trade. And lastly is about the training and certification. So this is setting standards for the seafarer training, certification, and watchkeeping, or usually or we commonly known as STCW. So how all this work? So first, of course, is to develop conventions and codes. So by this, you're creating a binding international treaties. For example, the SOLAS and the MARPOLs, and codes like the third code or 23 code. And then the next one is to set some standards. So establishing some global minimum standards for the shipping. And then of course it promotes some implementations. So encourage member states like the Philippines to adapt the enforce these instruments. And then lastly is addresses new challenges. So response to the issues like climate change or the GHG strategy and the new technology. So we are now moving forward about the STCW Convention. So the STCW Convention, or what we call the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for the Seafarers. So this is the global treaty for the IMO, setting some minimum standards for the training, certificates, and watchkeeping for the seafarers to ensure the safety at the sea and preventing some issues that varied some national rules. So I have here some important lists about the STCW. So the purpose is to establish a uniform internationally recognized minimum competence standards for the seafarers, enhancing the maritime safety and security. And then the scope of the SMCP, or I mean the STCW. So this one, it applies to seafarers on the merchant ships of contracting some parties, excluding the warships, fishing vessels, and the non-commercial yacht. And then governing body. So the international, this is about the international maritime organization, or what we call the IMO. And then the STCW. So the convention is supported by the STCW code. So which details the technical requirements and for the training, competence, and the certification. And then lastly is the major revisions. So in 1995 amendments. So the major overhaul to address vagueness and update standards, introducing practical competence requirements. While in 2010 Manila Amendment. So this is the further revisions to address the new technologies, improve clarity, and align with the Maritime Labor Convention or the MLCP. So what are all of these covered? What are the covered part? So it covered the deck and engine officers. So they have the minimum requirements for the certifications. And then the basic safety training. Then the firefighting, the first aid, the survival craft, and the personal safety. And then the next one is about the specialized training. So for the tank, this is for the tankers, something connected with the oil or chemicals, or other gases. And also the passenger ships. And then the next one is what we call the watchkeeping. So these rules and guidelines, including the fatigue management. And then lastly is the alternative certificate. So this one, it allows the border skill set beyond the traditional branches. Then why is it matter? So of course, it's about the safety. To ensures that crews possesses the safety skills to operate the vessels. And then the next one is what we call the uniformity. So it creates the level of playing field and consistent standards. And then the career essential. So it requires all the seafarers working on the international vessels. So we all know that the STCW heavily emphasizes the English for an effective global maritime communications that requiring a proficiency for safety, ensuring the clear understanding in emergencies, and setting standards for the training to bridge language barriers between the diverse international crews. So, with the specific requirements for rules, like the GMDSS, operators to ensure the critical distress and safety messages are understood worldwide. So, why English is under the STCW? So, first one is the global standard. So, shipping internationally and English serves as the lingua franca for the bridge to bridge, ship to shore, and intercrew communications, preventing the misunderstanding that lead to a accident. The next is the safety. So the 2010 STCW amendments especially increased focus on the language skills for the safe operations, especially during the emergency, navigations, and the engineering tools. So lastly, it's the bridging gaps. So this is with many international and migrant workers, a common language or the English is very crucial for operational competence and dependency on the co-workers are really high. So I have here now some STCW requirements related to the English. So first one is the functional competence. So the STCW code details required communication skills for a different levels. So and then the GMDSS certificates, personal handling radio communications must demonstrate the proficiency in English for distress call and ship operations. And then the emergency communications. Seafarers need to communicate via basic English, hand signal, or demonstrations when oral communication fails. And then lastly is the company responsibilities. So shipping companies must ensure the crew understand many procedures and policies, that often requiring some English trainings. So here, why do you need to understand the SMCP? So SMCP primary refers to the standard maritime communication phrases. So this is the mandatory simplified English phraseology set by the IMO to prevent the misunderstanding between a multilingual seafarers and shore staff for safer navigations. So I have here now the three ways to understand the and SMCP. So first one is the standard maritime communication phrases. So what is it all about? So this is the vital safety tool developed by the IMO to ensure a clear communication between the ships and shore. And then, so to overcome the language barriers and avoid the misunderstanding that causes accidents, covering the ship to ship and ship to shore and onboard communication. And how does it work? So there are going to use some standardized and simplified English phrases for the critical situations like the distress, navigations, and anchoring and maneuvering. So all of this requires a full phrases for answers. Like for example, yes, I will overtake rather than just saying yes or no. And then you're going to use some message markers like the question, instruction, or advice. So it also required for the officers to understand the STCW conventions. And then the second part is the scheduled maintenance critical percent. So this one, it's about the maintenance metric and critical equipment essential for the operations, safety, and preventing some financial loss. So to measure how much vital machinery is being maintained on schedule and help optimizing the resources up time. And then lastly is the SMCP Group. So this is just the global fashion company known for brands like the Sandro Mahe and Claudie Perla. So earlier I mentioned the structure of the SMCP that divided by two parts. So so this one is to standardize the simplified form of the maritime English. So the first part is the external communication phrases. So this part is a mandatory under the STCW convention for the officers in charge of a navigational watch and is primarily used for a ship to ship and ship to shore and communication with the vessel traffic services. So we have the distress communication by saying Mayday, and then search and rescue operations, the urgency and safety traffic, the pan-pan and the security. And then we also have the meteorological and hydrological conditions. We have also the navigational language and the vessel traffic management. So all of these are the external communication phrases. And then the second part, it's about the onboard communication phrases. So these are the standard phrases for the international ship operations. So which while supplementary to the first part. So these are highly uses or useful for the training and daily safety management. So especially on a vessel and with a multi-language or multilingual crew. So those topics includes operative ship handling, handling overwatch, safety on board, cargo and passenger handling, and then on board search and rescue activities. So that's the second part of the structure of the SMCP. Okay? So that will be our topic for our day 1. So again, this is your instructor Elaine for your English Maritime course.